Hello, this is Dr. Les Walkling and welcome to our studio and this opportunity to share some thoughts on the new Canson Infinity inkjet papers. Today we find ourselves surrounded by a bewildering array of printing papers. So how do we distinguish between them and the cacophony of claims around them, let alone go about evaluating new papers such as Canson Infinity's 4 new Arches fine art papers and the world's first matte-surfaced Baryta inkjet paper? To do this, we need a shared vocabulary that describes not only the differences between the papers, but also our relationship to them. So let's begin this investigation by considering the entirety of our printmaking workflow and the 5 domains of knowledge, skill, and competence required for uncompromised creative control. From the file's preparation for printing, to the materiality that printing confers on an image, including the software management of colour, the control of ink in the printer itself, along with the aesthetic judgments we apply to the printing process and print attributes. And while our aesthetic judgments seem to be as unique and subjective as we are, the 4 other domains are somewhat less objectively defined, or at least there can be a substantive objective component in their assessment and characterisation. For example, the materiality of the print is largely a function of the media it is printed on, and I find it useful to distinguish between 5 different media categories. From the solid substrates, such as metal, plastic and wood, to media woven from natural and synthetic fibres, such as canvas, silk, linen and polyester, to the 3 categories of paper, from our resin-coated, hardy and cost-effective commercial papers, to classic fibre-based photographic look-alike papers, and our traditional matte-surfaced fine art papers. Of Canson Infinity's new papers, Baryta Photographique 2 Matte is a classic fibre-based photographic paper, while the 4 new Arches mould-made papers are all beautiful matte-surfaced fine art papers. And across our 5 media categories are 5 additional media characteristics, further defining a paper's key pictorial qualities, such as its colour, surface, finish, its base, and the ink set it is designed for. These characteristics are also the tools we use to symbolically communicate our feelings, hopes, memories, and desires. For example, a cold-toned, smooth-surfaced paper will impart an entirely different look and feel compared to a warm-toned, heavily textured paper. But how we navigate these characteristics, let alone work with them, is still rather subjective. So let's see how else we might be able to define and clarify our understanding and application. For example, the paper's colour can be unambiguously defined in the LAB colour model, where L star represents the paper's reflective brightness, A star its green magenta tint, and B star is its warmth or coolness. And when A star and B star both equal 0, the paper's white point is defined as neutral relative to the D50 daylight standard, or in simplistic terms, relative to noonday sunshine. Under these conditions, the human visual system perceives a slightly warm-toned paper. On the other hand, a traditional photographic paper's Baryta subcoating adds a slight natural fluorescing coolness to the paper, shifting its white point towards a negative B star value and a more neutral visual rendering. Historically, we have therefore been able to more or less characterise the 3 categories of inkjet printing papers based on their B star values, where matte-surfaced fine art papers were mostly warm-toned papers. Our photographic papers were more or less neutral-toned papers, while our commercial resin-coated papers contained varying amounts of optical brightening agents that fluoresced in the presence of UV radiation, producing cold blue-toned papers. But that was then, and this is now. And Canson Infinity's new matte-surfaced papers are so much more than just 5 new papers to work with. for these new papers completely redefine our aesthetic choices and traditional definitions. And this is where the new Canson Infinity papers start to get really interesting. So let's dig a little deeper and see what we can discover and what this means for contemporary printmakers. Examining Canson Infinity's new Baryta Photographique 2 matte paper reveals it is clearly a classic photographic paper. Its smooth alpha cellulose fibre base is coated with an even smoother opaque reflective layer of white barium sulfate pigment, thereby ensuring the ink receptor's coating's peerless photographic surface, along with its visual neutrality and perfect unadulterated resolution. That is, there's no visible paper texture reducing the photograph's optical sharpness, while its matte finish adds the practical advantage of diffusing and controlling surface reflections when displayed and viewed under complex lighting conditions. And though Baryta darkroom papers have been available since the late 1880s, Canson Baryta Photographique 2 matte is an especially welcome development because it's the missing link. The missing link between the finest analogue silver gelatine papers and the finest inkjet printing papers. We are now not only celebrating 3 centuries of photography, but also the full complement of Baryta surfaces, from matte to soft gloss, across 3 centuries of printmaking in silver, non-silver and pigment technologies. Another new Canson Infinity fine art paper, Arch 88, also has an ultra-smooth surface, even smoother than the beautiful surface of Rag Photographique. But Arch 88 is also 100% cotton mould-made paper, so its ultra-smooth surface is an even more remarkable achievement. And look at Arch 88's B-star value. Comparing it with Rag Photographique, the visual differences are profound, and we now have 2 smooth-surfaced, exceptional fine art papers that can be rightly called warm tone and cold tone respectively. And while some pictorial associations can be quite literal, such as water appearing wetter in a glossy paper, faces, places and spaces will appear even more expressive, engaging and present on a slightly warm tone paper like Rag Photographique, or more astute, refined and overt on a slightly cooler, pure white tone paper like Arch 88. And if we look at the spectral reflectance of Arch 88, with and without ultraviolet radiation, we can see there are 0 optical brightening agents present. So we now have the utterly remarkable option of cold tone papers without OBAs, while retaining the exceptional characteristics of traditional mould-made fine art papers. There are also the 2 new Arch BFK Rives papers, BFK Rives White and BFK Rives Pure White. Here are their lab paper white values and their spectral reflectance. And while white and pure white are traditional and subjective paper descriptors, our B-star values quantify exactly what they mean. Pure white is a visually neutral tone, while white is a natural warm white paper tone. So now we have one of the most famous and beautiful printmaking papers of all time, Arch BFK Rives, available in cold tone or pure white and warm tone or natural white versions, which greatly expands our aesthetic choices and expressive printmaking toolkit. And like all of Canson Infinity's fine art papers, Arch BFK Rives contains no optical brightening agents, 0 OBAs. So paper colour and its other material and aesthetic qualities do not change when viewed under different light sources, at least not in the way that papers containing fluorescing optical brightening agents dramatically change not only paper colour, but also the image's appearance. And OBAs also degrade over time, and therefore so will the image's appearance further degrade irrespective of the viewing light source. All of the Arch mould-made papers also exhibit incredible strength and stability from their long interwoven cotton fibres, along with their luxurious bulk and the beautiful silky feel of traditional mould-made paper. All in all, guaranteeing the finest and most beautiful qualities paper can offer an image. And just as the warmth or coolness of the paper is a critical characteristic, so is its surface texture. And BFK Rives has the most beautiful surface and texture that in skilled hands greatly enhances and promotes an image's depth, dimensionality and presence. For example, in portraiture, the skin pores reproduced larger than life begin to match BFK Rives' surface, further animating the portrait and evoking even deeper feelings and associations. And this critical contribution of surface texture is perhaps nowhere more evident than in Canson Infinity's new Arche Aquarelle Rag. In this case, a classic watercolour paper is also available as a premium inkjet printing paper, which is ideal for the reproduction of watercolour paintings, but also provides a formidable presence in original digital art prints. Its highly textured finish adds micro-contrast to the image, which can be further enhanced by the angle and shape of the illuminating light source, where broad, flat lighting moderates this effect, and hard, raking spotlighting intensifies it. Even moving around an aquarelle print on a gallery wall can evoke these varying surface effects, and thereby also profoundly enhance our experience of it. And the original Canson Infinity Aquarelle and the new Arche Aquarelle Rag papers once again provide inspiring choices between warm tone and cold tone versions with different surface textures and physical presence. The new expanded range of Canson Infinity inkjet papers therefore also provides us with clear paper partner choices. From the legendary Rag Photographique and Platine Fibre Rag's choice of either a smooth matte or smooth gloss surface with similar white points and cotton rag bases, to the innovative Baryta Photographique 2, ultra smooth gloss and ultra matte variations, from the warm tone BFK Rives white and cold tone BFK Rives pure white, or Aquarelle warm white and pure white, or Rag Photographique and Arche 88, and so on. And apart from the sheer individual beauty of each paper, these paper partners provide without compromise clear, decisive and easily adapted choices in support of our printmaking and aesthetic ambitions. For example, an image's dimensionality, presence and atmospheric effects are greatly enhanced by warm tones and textures that appear to move towards us, and cold tones and smooth surfaces that tend to recede away from us, or a smooth gloss surface that imparts great depth and vigour to the image, while a smooth matte surface exudes tenderness and compassion. And while Arche Aquarelle Rag can totally transform a landscape with its surface textures, micro-highlights and shadows, skin tones will appear even more vital, present and youthful on the utterly beautiful and extraordinarily smooth surfaces of Arche 88 or Baryta Photographique 2 gloss and matte. I hope these classifications and distinctions help you get even closer to the heart of your printing through not only better understanding each paper's materiality and its physical impact on your image, but also each paper's unique personality and its effect on our reading and interpretation of the image. It has been a pleasure to share all of this with you, and I hope you found it informative and helpful, and wish you all the best with your adventures in creative printmaking.